Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter. A 17-year-old girl tells her family she is going to Palm Springs. It sounds like a simple plan. She expects to come back. Her family expects to hear from her. But later that day, her phone stops sharing its location. The calls go unanswered. The texts are never returned. And as the search for answers begins, one question keeps surfacing. Why do so many leads seem to point to the same place? This is the story of T'Neya Tovar. T'Neya Tovar was 17 years old. She was known to many as TT. She was from Hemet, California. To her family, there was nothing to suggest that December 1st would be different from any other day. Her mother, Charo Tovar, said T'Neya remained in contact with her, which is why when the calls went unanswered and the text messages stopped coming, the concern came quickly. Because the silence wasn't what her family or friends expected. And as the days passed, that feeling only grew stronger. On December 1st, 2025, according to her mother, T'Neya said she was heading to Palm Springs. She was expected to be gone for a couple of weeks. Then she'd be back. At first, there was no reason to think anything was wrong. But later that day, something changed. The location sharing her family had been able to see suddenly stopped. As the hours passed, there was still no word from T'Neya. Then a day passed, and then another, and her loved ones found themselves asking a question that would follow them for months. Where was T'Neya? As hours turned into days, concern became fear. A missing person report was filed, and the search began. For T'Neya's family, this wasn't just an investigation. This was a daughter who was missing. They made calls, followed leads, spoke to people who might have seen her, and tried to piece together her last known whereabouts. But the answers never came. No confirmed sightings, no verified contact, no public indication of where she was. Her loved ones continued searching, while investigators continued the investigation. As the search continued, more and more questions seemed to lead in the same direction, toward Salton City, and eventually, a single address, a home on Harlequin Court. The address was a boarded-up pink house on Harlequin Court. According to reporting, T'Neya's family became convinced that the property might hold answers about her disappearance. Charo Tovar and T'Neya's father, Josh Carter, returned to the property again and again. They requested multiple welfare checks, 4 in total. Deputies responded. They pounded on the gates, knocked on doors, but each time they were left with the same result. No answer. Then on December 21st, 2025, investigators received a call in a remote area of Vista Del Mar, near Salton City. Something had been found. Deputies responded to the area near Portsmouth Avenue and New Haven Court. There, they discovered partial human remains. A human leg. Investigators could not yet determine who it belonged to. The remains were sent for testing. And once again, everything came down to waiting. For investigators and for a family still searching for their daughter, the discovery raised new questions. Questions that would soon become central to the investigation. At the time, no one knew whether the remains were connected to T'Neya's case, but it would soon become one of the most important developments in the investigation. Weeks later, the wait was over. In February of 2026, DNA testing confirmed that the remains belonged to T'Neya Tovar. For more than 2 months, her family had been searching. The search for a missing teenager had become a homicide investigation. Authorities said bullet fragments were recovered from the remains, leading investigators to believe T'Neya had been shot. The FBI would later announce a reward of up to $10,000 for information in the case. But the identification did not explain what had happened or who was responsible. What happened after December 1st? And why did the search keep leading back to the same house? The house on Harlequin Court. For weeks, T'Neya's family had been asking authorities to look closer at the property on Harlequin Court. Now, it appeared that was exactly what was happening. As the investigation continued, authorities worked to understand what had happened to T'Neya. And in February of 2026, the case took a significant turn. Investigators returned to Harlequin Court, this time with a search warrant. On February 13th, 2026, investigators returned to the property on Harlequin Court. For months, the house had been at the center of the family's concerns. It was the same property T'Neya's family had repeatedly asked authorities to look into. Now that was finally happening, deputies working with the FBI executed a search warrant at the property. Authorities said 51-year-old Abraham Feinblum attempted to flee as officers arrived. Reporting indicates he tried to jump a fence. He was detained and later placed under arrest. For T'Neya's family, the moment did not answer every question, but it was the first major development in months, and it suggested investigators believed the property was important. Prosecutors eventually charged Abraham Feinblum with murder. He has maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty. As the case moved through the courts, additional details began to emerge. During preliminary hearing testimony, an FBI agent provided new details about the investigation. The agent testified that a friend had dropped T'Neya at the property on December 1st, 2025. The agent also testified that investigators believed the house on Harlequin Court was T'Neya's last known location. But it is important to remember that these claims represent the prosecution's theory of the case. These claims have not been tested at trial. The court also heard testimony about digital and forensic evidence presented during the investigation. Prosecutors presented cell phone data tracking T'Neya's electronic devices. Prosecutors said the data placed T'Neya's last known active location at Feinblum's property before she vanished. The court also heard testimony about surveillance footage. According to court testimony, the footage was captured from inside the suspect's Salton City residence. Prosecutors said the video showed T'Neya inside the home. Prosecutors argued that the footage contradicted statements Feinblum made to investigators about whether he knew T'Neya. The defense has challenged portions of the case. In April of 2026, a judge ruled that there was enough evidence for the case to move forward. It marked a major step toward trial. Abraham Feinblum has pleaded not guilty, and the charges remain allegations unless and until they are proven in court. The criminal case continues to move forward, but for T'Neya's family, this story is not over. They continue to seek justice. Months later, questions still remain. Questions about where T'Neya was, what happened to her, and who might know the answers. Our thoughts are with T'Neya Tovar's family, friends, and loved ones. If you have information related to this case, the FBI asks that you contact 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. Contact details are listed in the show notes. As we close this episode, sharing T'Neya's story helps keep attention on the questions that remain. For more cases and updates, follow Hunting for Answers. You can also connect with us through our Facebook group and find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And as always, if there's a story you believe deserves attention, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.